Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pro Talk, where I talk with people in my life who are really good at what they do. They're a pro or an expert at their field of work, their hobbies, their careers, their ministries, whatever the case may be. Um, Today is a very, very special episode, probably the most unique one out of all of them. Today, the formula is going to look a little bit different. One part of it is that I have two guests today. Um, One of the guests will not be on for the whole thing, but she'll chime in a little. And then the second part that makes it really unique is that it is my parents. And normally the formula is I ask them about their jobs and all that kind of stuff and their careers and their ministries, and we'll get to that. We'll talk about that as well. But ultimately, it's how they both have been really good at being obedient to whatever God is telling them to do and following it through. And um, so that's the conversation today. A little really unique, really special for me. So today I have my parents, Jeff and Gail. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for coming on.
Thank you for asking us.
Yeah. So I want to ask Dad first off. Talk to me about how you grew up, where you grew up, a number of siblings, kind of those dynamics, who helped you realize some things that were important in your life, those kinds of things.
So I'm I guess, a brat. My dad was in the military, and we bounced around a little bit in Virginia and Washington D.C. before we settled into Panama City, Florida, where Tyndall Air Force Base was, and that's pretty much where I got. I from about the second grade on, I grew up. So I call that home because those are the things that I remember.
Yeah.
Um, I'm one of four. I'm number three. I was the problem child. So my brothers and sisters all pretty much grew up and stayed in Florida their whole life. And I moved away as soon as I could possibly move out
Yeah.
and went to college. So
Yeah.
um, uh, you had influence? Is that one of the questions?
Yeah. Who helped you who played a part in helping you come up with the person that you are today?
Oh, um, my parents kind of lived the same way we live. They moved away from their parents. My dad's family is from Boston, and my mother's family is from Virginia. And she was actually born in Georgia but moved to Virginia. Um, so when my parents moved out, they were never near family.
Hmm.
So they did everything together, and they depended on each other for everything. Kind of the way we grew up, or way Gail and I, we've never been near family, and we've been much. We, um, I guess, we needed each other more than most because you can reach out to family or something, but we weren't close to anybody, so
Yeah.
we relied on each other for everything.
Yeah.
Um, Probably my parents' independence and their ability to do a lot of different things is where I learned my giftedness from. Because we weren't didn't have a lot of money, and so we made things work.
Yeah.
And if we couldn't make them work, we fixed things until they couldn't be fixed anymore.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of my natural habits from that. And then my grandfather, um, my mother's dad, was very influential because he was that person that you love to hate. Um, he was he was um, if I said orange, he said green, and he made me argue that it was orange. And he insisted that I understand what I was talking about, and he pushed me to understand. and to be, and if I didn't understand, then he would wear me down um, till I acknowledged that I didn't know something,
Hmm.
and then made me learn it.
Yeah.
So it was because of his personality. Um, he pushed me beyond what I was comfortable with, till to the point that I learned to function well in an uncomfortable environment.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, I just have to deal with my grandmother telling me, if you don't love him, you don't love me. So therefore, I learned to love my grandfather, and he became very influential. A lot of a lot of the things that I think are similar to him. I think.
Yeah. Is it, would you think, would you say that Granny and Granddaddy, your parents, my grandparents, and he were some of your spiritual leaders that helped you form your relationship with Christ as well, or were those different people, maybe Sunday school teachers, youth pastors?
I think um, in my younger years, I didn't have a lot of church influences. So my mother and dad, they brought me up to do all the right things, and I learned because we were in church like 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So I learned how Christianity worked, but I did not learn to be a Christian and to walk like one and to act like one until after I got married.
Okay.
So the influence in that part of my life came from Gail's dad, Bill Hightower,
Yeah.
and it was the different things that he taught me and he modeled for me that changed how I looked at my faith. That was different than what I would how I was raised, because I
Okay.
was raised to do all the right things, but I didn't know Jesus Christ personally,
Okay.
and so I could be a great. I look great. I
Yeah.
look like a great Christian, but I didn't live like one, and it wasn't in my heart.
Yeah.
It was just I understood how to do it, and it was a performance. It wasn't a lifestyle.
Yeah. You understood that you should do the right thing, but you didn't understand why you should do the right thing.
Oh, I understood why. I just didn't want interested.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, at some point you have to learn that it's not what you know that's going to change your life. It's how you're going to um, how it's going to develop in your life
Yeah.
that's going to make you a different person, and how you're going to embrace
Yeah.
what you know.
Yeah. Well, so y'all, you and mom, y'all got married, and talk to me just for a minute because it's a really, it to me, it's a really unique story on how y'all met and got married, and timeline wise, to me it was very, to me it's very unconventional, in how everything went down. But talk to me like first time meeting mom and realizing y'all were gonna get married and how all that went.
Well, your mother came to conclusions quicker than I did, but that's typically the way she does things. She's faster at it than I am. But I think we had both in our mid 20s kind of lived around the fringes quite a bit in our lives, and quickly came to the understanding that this wasn't the life for either one of us, and that's when we got back to going to church, and that's when we met each other. So it was really interesting. We were in a church in Atlanta, um, huge singles group, and we got to know each other. I don't even think I remembered her name for first couple weeks that I met her. I just kept calling her the nurse.
Because that's what
But
she was studying in college.
when she was graduated,
Yeah.
she was a nurse, and I couldn't remember her name, but I knew that she was the nurse,
Yeah.
and everybody that I asked knew who she was, so
Yeah.
they knew her name. Anyway, we met and started dating. Um, and I think actually we met as a group and we probably got to know everybody over the course of a couple months. And then we started dating. And about 2 weeks later, I asked her to marry me.
Yeah.
So,
Very, very unconventional in a lot of other people's stories. It's that's kind of I hear a lot of people say like, oh well, we dated for a year or two, or we've known each other for a while, but we dated for this long, and y'all kind of just to me it seems like y'all kind of just knew.
well, I think you just after a while you know what you don't want.
Okay.
By exposing yourself to so many different people, you know what you don't want, and then when you finally see what you do want, it's a no brainer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I went with it.
Yeah. So, y'all got married and y'all lived in Atlanta for a little, and talk to me about, you talked earlier before we started recording about school and college. Talk to me, and this is really the foundation of the main theme for this episode in obedience. Talk to me about going to college, figuring out what you wanted to do, how you got there, your experiences in college, those types of things.
Well, I went to a technical college for electronic engineering, um, and I was diehard to do electronics. I'm a geek. You know, I like to fix things. Anything that's broken, I want to figure out why
Yeah.
and fix it. I loved the whole electronics era when it was kicking up in the early '80s. As when I was going to school. It was the thing to do,
Yeah.
and so um, I got in, got a good education, got a great job with MCI at the time, which eventually merged with Verizon. Um, and just for 25 years, worked or 24 years, worked for them in engineering and in the management. Um, and ultimately, that's I think when the Lord started convicting me about that after we got married and Bill, um, his influence in doing missions and ministry. At the little church we were going to, I was doing a lot of missions trips. Um, Actually, I had done little jobs like around town and stuff like that.
Sure.
And he invited me to go on a foreign mission trip.
Was that your first one?
No, that was the first one I refused to go on.
Okay.
And he wanted me to go to Kenya. And the first thing I thought of is, what in the world am I going to do in Kenya? I don't speak the language. I know nothing. And I told him no. And when he came back from that trip, and he shared all the stories of everything that they did and the people that got saved. And um, I, the Lord just like stuck a dagger in my heart, and
Yeah.
like I have really missed the boat.
Yeah.
And so I made this, uh, I made this promise to me and God. I said, if He asks me to go anywhere else, I'll go. And I no stipulations. If He asks, I'll go.
Yeah.
Well, then the next year he asked, well, you want to go to Romania with me? And I'm like, oh, great. And I
God
was
didn't
thinking,
forget that promise.
and I was like, didn't Ceausescu just get killed? Isn't this a communist country? And he's like, yeah, we're going in and there's church planting galore going on in there. And we're going to support them. And I was like, okay. I said I'd go.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, South Carolina and North Carolina were doing a lot of work in Romania at that time.
It was just South Carolina, but
Okay.
we were in North Carolina, and so he invited me to come down
Okay.
and participate with the South Carolina group.
Okay.
So for 2 years, we did that,
Yeah.
and it
Y'all
was
didn't live there, but you went
no,
you
we
went
went
twice.
there. Yeah, we went there twice
Okay.
for like 2 week trips,
Okay.
and it was a lot of it was an experience unlike anything I've ever done. I was doing little. I preached in a barnyard with animals, goats, chickens, chairs set up and people listening to me give the gospel, and it was not like anything I'd ever experienced.
Yeah.
So it was exciting and it was nerve wracking
Yeah.
because it was all new.
Yeah.
But it was from that that experience that kind of led us down the road of adoptions.
Yeah.
So
Well, and so the to and I'm bringing in my second guest now, which is my mom. She's been sitting here waiting to talk. And this is a question for both of you. Um, Adopting in the United States is hard enough as it is. Fostering and adopting in the United States is hard as it is. But adopting one kid is hard, two kids is harder, three kids is probably really, really hard. How did you know that adopting three kids um, from a foreign country was what you were supposed to do? Because I would imagine people around you were like, okay, well, you don't know what you're doing, and that's crazy for you to do it, and it probably was unconventional. And how did you know, no, this is what God is telling us, and what made you say yes to it, mom and dad?
Well, when Dad went on his second trip, I said, "Don't bring any kids home with you," because we had Josh and Adam,
Yeah, my older two brothers.
right, and then uh, so I'm trying to think of the timeline here. So then he came home from that second trip and he had pictures of all these sweet little faces and talked about how when you pull a piece of candy out of your pocket, they just come up just from everywhere, out of the ditches and sewers and behind buildings, and they're just everywhere. And so then that's when the Lord, I guess, started working on both of us about adoption. Um, so when that was going on, my mom and dad actually lived in Charleston, South Carolina, and then they decided they were going to go live in Romania and help the teams that were coming over,
Mm-hmm.
like coordinate everything.
Yeah.
So while they were over there, they got to know some people from an adoption agency in South Carolina who would come over to pick up children, and they'd call mom and dad and go to dinner with them. And so then uh, that's the way we got to know the adoption agency we used in South Carolina. We actually lived in North Carolina, but mom would tell me about them coming over and having these precious children they were taking back, and so dad and I just kept praying about it, and so then we decided to go to like an informational meeting, and we did that, and so then we decided we would adopt one child.
Which turned into three.
well, one of the things that you have to do when you go through the whole process of adoptions is you have to specify the how many children that you want to adopt
Mm-hmm.
maximum. So you have to put a limit out there. Um, part of part of their pre-approval, make sure that you can afford to do it, all that kind of good stuff. Um,
When y'all were younger, like high school, maybe early college, even before y'all knew each other, was adoption kind of like in your mind? Like when you were thinking, okay, I want a family one day,
yeah,
it may be cool to do that one day, or it was just when y'all got married and
it's
that's
never
when.
been in my mind.
Okay.
Never, never.
In fact, my first thought when she said even mentioned adoptions is how could you love somebody that wasn't your own?
Hmm.
And that was my logic. Um,
And that was obviously before God worked
that was
in your
before I
heart.
went to Romania.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the concept of adoption just it went right by me, and I have to assume that's a lot of people's thinking
Sure.
is that if you didn't give birth to this child and it's not it's not you,
Mm-hmm.
that you couldn't have that kind of love for
Yeah.
that child. And I have to think that's probably that hitch that catches most people, and they miss that opportunity. So anyway, the process of having three, we decided to fill out the paperwork saying, okay, what's the most that you would want? And we said two. And then they said, well, then just put one more extra on there to be.
Yeah,
Did I say
so
that right?
that's the INS paperwork that you have to fill up, but backing up a little bit. So we decided we would apply for one child, and then Jeff came in one day and put his briefcase down, and he's like, I think we're supposed to get two. And I'm like, me too. So
Just round it up.
when you fill out your INS paperwork, they tell you to ask for one more child than what you're applying for, because your paperwork, it's a lot of money, and your paperwork is only good for, I don't remember now, 18 months or
18 months.
2 years. And that a lot of people fill it out and put one child, they want to bring one child back into the US, and then by the time they go through the whole big long wait period, go get that child, come back, then if their paperwork's so good, they can go ahead and start for their second child and not have to reapply for a second child.
Okay, interesting.
So they said, you need to put down three. And we were like, we're not getting three. But we put down three because that's what we were told to do, which, God knows your future, and He knows what's going to happen. We
Yeah.
didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. So you adopted the three of us. How did your life, obviously it did change in a big way because you went from 2 kids to now 5 kids. And also you had 2 white kids and now 4 white kids and one, a couple darker skin colored kids. And like it just, your lives did change a lot, and y'all were living in the South. So how did your lives change when you adopted kids?
Okay, the color issue wasn't an issue. I always thought my little brown boy, if that's the way you want to put it, I never thought of his skin as being brown. And I always just thought he was the most cutest God-given little thing I had ever.
I'll send you the check
I just
later.
I felt blessed to have all of you. The skin part was not an issue. So in Romania, there's white kids and there's, darker colored kids. And when we started the process, we prayed that whatever the adoption agency offered us, that's what we were taking.
Okay.
We weren't going to say, oh, no, not that kid, or oh,
So
no,
y'all didn't
send
have
us
requirements of anything. You just said, we want kids.
Right.
Yeah, and in a lot of agencies, they would sit you down in front of a book, and you would flip pages,
Well,
and you'd see little children,
Yeah.
and you would pick them.
Yeah.
And we said there's no way I could sit there and look at a child and say, oh, I don't want that one, or I want that one.
Right.
And so we just determined the people we were going to go with, it's going to be an agency that we can just say, hey, that we knew they were Christians, and we were saying we're going to pray for you, and we're going to pray that you're going to offer us children that God wants us to have, and we're going to trust the Lord that He's going to pick them.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did.
Yeah.
And so they offered us 2 children, 2 little baby twins, and Anna.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 twins died not much after they were born. And so there was a lot of heartbreak within that little community, because they had never lost children in their adoption process. So they offered us, and they offered us you, and they offered us Julia, and
Well, the way they said it was, um, the director of the foundation in Romania has a little girl. She's 6 weeks old. She's perfect, and he wants you to have this baby. And they also have a little boy too. Do you want him? He's 9 months old, and we just said yes to both
Okay.
of them. Yeah.
And so y'all came back to the States with us. How obviously your lives did change, but talk briefly about how your lives changed.
well, at first it's real easy to just the fact that three toddlers
Yeah.
in the room when there wasn't but teenagers or preteens.
Yeah. Y'all had already done the raising of
Yeah,
kids and y'all started over.
the beauty of it is you know where things are going.
Mm-hmm.
The negative is it's times three.
Mm-hmm. When you're outnumbered too.
Well, and your brothers, Josh and Adam, they they took a lot of the load. They really cared and loved and helped, and just it was a family affair. It was a family effort on the whole adoption front. Um, they went with us the first time that we went to get Anna, and then when went back in December of 2002 to get you and Julia, um, they stayed at home and took care of Anna. But they were a part of the entire process.
Yeah. So what is through that whole process? Um, what is one lesson in obedience that y'all learned through all of that?
Well, I think that where God gives you a plan, He's already given the answers that go along with the plan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the steps involved. You
Yeah.
don't. You just know the end result.
Yeah.
So you see the end result and you go to it, but you don't know the road that it's going to take to go there.
Yeah.
The adoptions were horrible, and from a standpoint of what was supposed to take 6 months took 18 months.
Yeah.
That the ramifications behind all of that, both financially and just mentally and physically,
Yeah.
were just crazy. But in every step of the way, the Lord provided a solution.
Yeah.
That fixed the problem that was created.
Right.
And it seemed like there was obstacle after obstacle that nobody had ever seen before.
Right.
But the Lord came through.
Well, and I don't know if I've ever asked this, but even though it was December of 2002, did 9/11 change anything for y'all in terms of travel, in terms of the timeline?
It didn't change timelines. It just changed maybe some of the additional things that you had to make sure you had.
Sure.
When you're going out of the country, you already have passports. You
Yeah.
already have all that stuff. So that didn't change a whole lot. So no, not really.
Okay.
And not to mention the second time we went into Romania, I think Moldova was in war. So the flights changed on how you flew through there.
Sure.
But as for any additional obstacles, not really.
Okay. Okay. So, you guys, you're still at MCI at this point, working there, doing technology, doing what you sought out to do in college. You're fulfilling your dreams. Mom, you were a nurse for a few years, and then you had kids, and then you kind of took a step back to be a mom, and then you can go into the story if you want, but then God called you to go out and plant a church in Las Vegas, Nevada, and at this point, y'all were living in Raleigh, Knightdale, North Carolina. Mom, I'm going to ask you this question, and I do want you to answer it. You grew up as a pastor's child,
Right.
and so your upbringing was different than Dad's in the sense that you were raised in the church from day one. Um,
Well, Dad was too.
yes, but not as a pastor's child. It's a
Right.
little different.
Right.
Um, so when y'all got the call to be church planters out in Vegas, what was that like for both of y'all, and why was it maybe not easy to say yes, but why did you say yes?
Well, I didn't say yes at first. So a pastor friend of ours was going out to plant a church in Vegas, and he asked us if we would be part of that church. Your dad said something to me about it on Sunday morning as I was getting 3 kids out of the bathtub, and I just looked at him and I was like, "Are you crazy? No, we can't even talk about this right now." I mean, it just, 5 kids moving across the country. So we really had to do a lot of hard praying and heart searching. Um, and at that point, as a married couple, um, I think your dad had a big desire to do something like that.
Yeah,
And
probably
me,
after all the mission
I
trips.
was just a mom. I didn't really go on a bunch of mission trips. I stayed at home and took care of the kids, you know. Um, so at that point, you have to make the decision together as a couple. Um, but I knew his heart's desire was really, really to go.
Hmm.
But we decided that we weren't going to talk about it until we had both prayed about it for a certain amount of time, and searched our Bibles, and then we also read this book, um,
Dream Giver.
The Dream Giver. Uh,
N-
we were all
Not a book to read if you think you don't want to go on mission.
so anyhow, that's it. It was a long process of deciding.
Right, it wasn't just overnight.
It wasn't even just 6 months. It was more like a year or a year and a half or something like that. At least a year. I don't remember how much time passed.
Yeah. Well, and so y'all made the decision to go out there, and that's where we spent the majority of my childhood was in Las Vegas from 5 until almost 15, 5 or 6, almost until 15. 7?
Yeah.
I could, okay. Well,
No, you were 6.
6. Okay.
7.
Okay. Well, 5 or 6. Yeah. And so, talk to me about, Dad talked to me about planning a church out there. Well, ultimately, talk to me about your concerns about you leaving this big, steady, stable job with MCI to go out there and and be a church planter. Everybody knows that there's no money in ministry most of the time. It's very far and few between. Were you nervous about that? Were you um, excited? Were you scared? How you were going to provide for your family? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the pastor that we went out there with and I had many a conversation over that course of time, trying to fully understand the mission of
Mm-hmm.
what we wanted to do, what was to be accomplished. I'm an engineer, so I'm thinking all down the road. I want to know long term. I have how we strategizing. How do I help get that ministry to a point? Because his giftedness was he was like an 11 on a 1 to 10 extrovert, um, and so his giftedness was in communications and connection, and presenting the gospel. He was a dynamic speaker. Um, my giftedness was in administration, logistics, um, how everything comes together.
Yeah. He was in front of the scenes. You were behind the scenes.
Right. In fact, you probably didn't want me in front of this scenes because the few times that I did do it, I bored the snot out of people. But I'm too detailed.
I remember you preaching a couple times.
So the when I left MCI, I was in management um, over engineering and operations, and it was a cushy job. I mean, I'd worked 24 years. I established a lot.
Yeah.
So it was a great job. But I also knew after multiple um, the process of laying people off and hiring people and laying more people off because we did mergers and acquisitions all the time, that it was a rocky boat, and that and reality is corporations are about numbers, and at some point my number was going to get pulled.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do I what do I want my legacy to be? Lifetime in a company or serving the Lord? And I'm like, I'd much rather go out serving the Lord than go out as a number.
Sitting at a desk. Yeah.
And I already had been on probably 3 or 4 international missions trips, several stateside missions trips, and world changers, and all kinds of different things that I just knew I loved missions. I liked being out there. I liked meeting and seeing different cultures, and watching other cultures praise the Lord is, to me, one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer. It was presented. Las Vegas was presented as the foreign city in the United States.
Yeah.
And it was because it was number 2 in unchurched people in the country, and that's why Vegas was picked. And 75% of the church plants failed within 2 years.
Yeah. We were out there. Yeah, we were out there for a while.
And it was just the dynamics of the city were brutal, but there were lost people.
Yeah.
And in abundance.
Yeah.
And it was just as we sat down and discussed how we were going to plant that church, or what it would look like, it just got more and more exciting, and the Lord just kept constantly telling me, this is where you need to be. And so I remember the scariest part was when I approached my VP and told him that I definitely, because I knew there was a reduction in force coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be part of that.
Yeah.
Can you work me into it and save somebody's job? And the long and the short of it, he's like, I personally tied you to a contract so you couldn't lose your job. And it was an FAA contract. And so I basically had to walk away. And walking away meant walking away from all my management retirement benefits that came along with that.
Yeah.
And so it was a tough choice, but I already knew the answer.
Yeah.
So I just did what I knew was right.
Yeah. Mom wants to chime in.
One thing that made it easier is as you try to serve the Lord, and things come into your life and your faith grows, and you get over one hurdle and you're like, wow, I couldn't have done that without God. We could look back over our life, our marriage, and see all the times that God made a way, because He's a way maker.
Yeah.
So back to the adoptions. When we went to get you and Julia, we didn't have all of your paperwork. We didn't have your Romanian passports.
Right.
So you come home with a Romanian passport and a U.S. visa.
Mm-hmm.
They kept saying, oh, we can't get their passport. We can't get we don't have their passport yet. So we had our church pray over us, and we got on a plane and came and got y'all. Mm-hmm. And your dad took gifts and went to the passport office and got your passport. And the reason we did that was because our INS was fixing to expire.
Okay.
And God just worked it all out.
Yeah.
We got your passports. Second day we were there, we went to the embassy. It was closed. Dad rang the doorbell, told them who he was. They opened the door and let him in and gave him the visas.
Wow.
Things like that.
God was
And
working.
they were expecting us.
Yeah. When
God already set a path out for you.
yes. So when God does that kind of thing, you just kind of you don't go into things blindly, but you go into things knowing that He's going to make a way.
Yeah. So does that help with obedience and saying, okay, well, he's asked me to do these things, and I was nervous about it, but I did them, and he took care of us, so I can say yes to these things.
You learn to trust.
Yeah.
And you learn, and your faith grows as your trust is affirmed.
Yeah.
And reaffirmed and reaffirmed. It's no different than when we went to get Anna for the first time. And of course, that was the first time we met y'all at the same time. When we brought her home, I had come back to a pink slip, and in the mail, well, we had done a reduction of force while I was out of the country, and I was on the list.
Oh.
And so the VP that put me in a position that nobody could ever fire me in, put me in the FAA. He rehired me under another function.
Wow.
To secure me for my position so that that wouldn't happen again.
Okay.
So it's one of these things where you just trust the Lord.
Yeah.
And know that even when things are not going right, they're going by. He's got a plan.
Yeah.
It's not my plan. It wasn't my plan to get fired and rehired. It wasn't my plan to have to walk away.
Yeah.
But the results, when you look back on it, you're kind of like, there couldn't have been a better way.
Yeah. So we're in Vegas now, and talk to me, because I remember certain things about North Valley Fellowship, our church out there, just being a kid, but I also remember I remember a lot of fun things. Talk to me about the time out there that you had of planning a church, the fun it was, the excitement, some maybe one or two like crazy things that were good things that happened that just energized you and excited you and kept you going, because ministry is draining, and ministry can be exhausting, especially in y'all's circumstance. But talk to me how God provided you strength to do the things that you needed to do.
I'm thinking about there's a bunch of different little things that went on while we planted the church. We started out in someone's home. They did the church service in the living room, and they did kids zone in the garage. Mm-hmm. And then it progressed to a University of Phoenix little business center. Mm-hmm. That we turned into a little sanctuary.
Yep.
And then it transitioned from that to, we didn't have a place, and we actually literally met in a park.
Yep.
And did church outdoors. It happened to be the fall, so that it was beautiful in Vegas.
Not 130 degrees anymore.
And so we did church in the park for several weeks, almost a month, and then we went into a theater.
Yeah.
And we met in a theater for several months, and then we finally got into a school. Mm-hmm. And the school was the final place that we.
Well, there were two schools.
Yeah.
CTA and Cimarron.
Yeah, we did the CTA first, which was a big specialty school, almost like a magnet school of sorts. Mm-hmm. It was very nice. And then we went to a high school, which actually provided tons of opportunity because they had a huge homeless student population.
Yep.
And our church mobilized one of the largest giving that the county school system had seen. Up to that point, we became a partner with them to provide supplies for those homeless high school students, because they didn't have funding for high school.
Yeah.
So the homeless student population funding stopped at junior high.
Okay.
And so at high school level, they were kind of left to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so we were able to come alongside and do ministry there, right in that one school that we were in. It was exciting. I mean, that um, having a Bible study, in-home Bible study for the first time with people that none of them had Bibles. So we have Bibles all over the house. We were pulling them out from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I remember some of the comments of like, "What page is that on?" And then somebody said, "There's somebody scribbled in your Bible."
That's a good thing.
And it was just one of my study Bibles, but they're like, "They're scribbling all in the Bible. Can you do that?" And it was just the rawness of unchurched.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting to see people that had no understanding at all of what church was, who God was.
Yeah.
And
Because y'all came from the Bible Belt, y'all came from the South and was very churched, and y'all go out there and it's totally
Vegas
opposite.
is a different people group. I mean, they wear their shirt, or they wear their sins on their shirt sleeve, and they're proud of it. And so
Sin City.
it's one of those things that you always know what you're dealing with because it's right out in front of you. It's not this secretive thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful opportunity because you can reach into people's lives that never have been exposed to Christianity or the gospel, and in your own backyard.
Yeah.
I think that's just so incredible.
Yeah. When so there were some time I remember doing Bible study at our house, and I remember coming home like you said we were a mobile church, so we went in and set everything up and tore everything down, and our family was typically the last family there because we were either driving the trucks back to a place or bringing the trailer home or locking up or whatever, and we would get home, have lunch, mom would clean up the house a little, and then I remember several times her and I would make brownies and sweet tea every night, whether we were doing Italian one night or Mexican or pizza, whatever type of food we were having, we always had brownies and sweet tea, and that was what me and her made. So that was special. Um, Mom, what were some things, and if you don't want to get into it, you don't have to, but what were some things for you as a new pastor's wife? And Dad was not the preacher, but he was the one behind the scenes, and he did preach several times, and I remember a couple times. But what were some things for you as a pastor's wife that you enjoyed being able to be a part of and do and see God work through?
Well, I never really considered myself a pastor's wife. We were just workers. We were just workers. Um, we just did whatever needed to be done. So when we got there, somebody needed to create a nursery preschool area. We already had we had families that traveled out there with us, so we knew we had a core group of 3 or 4 families that went out there, and then God graciously sent us there are saved people in Vegas.
Yeah,
there
oh,
are
yeah.
Bible believing
Yeah.
churches in Vegas. So God graciously sent us other families to help. But one of the biggest things I remember is when we were trying to start a nursery and a preschool, is another like mega church right near us was redoing their whole preschool area, and they were getting rid of all this furniture and curriculum and all this stuff, and I just thought it was Christmas.
Yeah.
Because we went and got tables and chairs, and then we would keep
I remember all those tables and chairs.
We would keep them all week. Gates. They gave us all kinds of stuff. And so we would keep it all week in our trailer, in our garage, and then it would already be packed up. We'd hook the trailer up, take it, set it up on Sunday morning, and all you kids would help set up the nursery while everybody else went and set up like the sanctuary. And then we had another family who did like a kids zone thing. So I remember that, and then I remember starting a ladies ministry. So that was really special. And then I don't remember what year it was, but Christmas fell on a Sunday maybe.
The choir that we had.
Well, it was the same day, but we probably had 500 people in attendance that day.
Mm.
And that was just like that was just like amazing. It was just something that we had never dreamed of. It was every seat was taken. We had a little children's choir.
Me,
Uh,
Anna, and Julia were part of that children's choir.
yeah. So
I was in the background of it because I
and I
don't
guess all
sing.
the other things were just
You
the
were never in the background.
No,
just
never.
the outreach that we did with the Las Vegas homeless shelter,
Boys and
the
Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
We were always doing something,
The
whether
big
it
park
was
events.
like setting up a grill, cooking hot dogs in front of the Boys and Girls Club, and people would just come and we'd just give them food. So that's some of the things I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, creativity is one of the things that, I mean, we just focused on what can we do to serve that community wherever we were at.
Yeah.
What was their needs and how could we meet them, whether it be we in at the Boys and Girls Club, for instance, we had people come in to teach ESL, English is the second language. We had small Bible studies. We had game things for the kids while the parents took a break after everybody had something to eat. We did Thanksgiving. You remember the Thanksgiving
Yep.
meals
Yep.
where
I remember Easter events, park events.
we served 1,000 meals
Yep.
for Thanksgiving, and then I mean it was just how do we serve our communities wherever
Hmm.
we're at so that we could eventually explain to them because they would ask, why are you doing all this stuff? And we could share them the love of Christ that we received and we're turning around and giving it to them.
Yeah. So we were there in Vegas for a while. Did you guys, and this can just be a quick, this can be a quick answer because it's going to lead into the kind of the closing part. Did you guys think maybe not right away, but maybe a few years into it, and we got a church established and our lives established there? Did y'all think that we were gonna be there? Could y'all see that that would be y'all's final place of staying there, and just that was your life there?
Honestly, yes. We were
You were
we
very happy there.
we still to this day have extremely fond memories,
Yeah,
and we miss the relationships that we made there,
yeah,
and what we built
yeah,
was
What God built,
yeah.
yeah.
But y'all got to be a part of.
we were a part of a
Yeah,
huge build,
yeah.
and it was something that was very unique,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a huge part of that,
Yeah,
and it brought a lot of joy,
yeah,
and
And we got a daughter-in-law.
yeah,
yes,
we through that our children grew up,
yeah,
and so we watched them mature, and we watched one get married.
yeah. So my final couple of questions are going to be maybe a little bit heavier, but the theme of obedience is still in it. 2014, 2015, somewhere around there, maybe even 2013, you stepped down from being a pastor at the church to make room for some other things. And you did the MCI thing and you thought you were going to do that for a while, and then God said, okay, we're going to do this instead. And you went out to Vegas and you did that for a while, and you were very successful, very blessed, and you established your life in a new way that maybe you weren't expecting. And then God said, we're gonna close the we're gonna close this chapter for a minute, and not be on staff at a church and do other things. And then we ended up moving to a couple places, but landed in Somerville. Talk to me about because I remember, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this as a family, but I remember when we were kind of fading out of North Valley of that church, that it was a hard time for our family for a lot of different reasons, and we ended up moving to Phoenix for a little while, and we all hated it there. But then we ended up being at Somerville in here in South Carolina. Talk to me about those decisions with however much detail you want. but just of how you thought, okay, well, God brought us out to Vegas and he had us do this thing and it was going great and then all of a sudden it just kind of stopped. How do you stay obedient and all that?
I think the key to that is knowing, having history,
Mm-hmm.
that God's not failed me,
Mm-hmm.
that if He puts me in a place, there's a purpose,
Okay.
and then that through that purpose, I'll get revelation if I stay on task.
Yeah.
Um, and it's never easy. The transitions that we did, um, assumptive sometimes on my part was that um, I could step down from the position I was in to help the church that had lost their pastor and lost the finances to maintain the staff. That if I stepped down, that they could sustain the financial integrity of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And my naiveness, I'm an engineer. I've got 24 years of engineering and plus management. I shouldn't have a problem finding a job.
Yeah. But
Not true.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, and I think that's the reason. I think the Lord was in that because He didn't want me to stay there. My chapter was done.
Yeah.
And though trying to figure out what was next
Mm-hmm.
was trial and error.
Sure.
And I knew that there was something out there, and I just had that thing that's the Lord's not going to leave me.
Yeah.
He's not going to leave me hanging. I may not like what I'm going to go through,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to get left.
Yeah.
I never had a need or a want
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't or a need that wasn't fulfilled. I had a lot of wants that didn't get
Sure.
happen. But we always had food, we always had shelter,
Mm-hmm.
and we always were able to stay together.
Yeah.
And that is more than most can ask.
Yeah.
And so the transition and the process we had to go through to till the Lord opened up doors
Mm-hmm.
that brought us back to the South, basically. We're a series of trials and errors that
Mm-hmm.
you just have to, you have to have faith to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
God doesn't bless something that stands still.
Yeah.
You don't direct a parked car.
Yeah.
You have to direct a car that's moving.
Yeah.
And so you have to stay moving.
Yeah.
And that's always been my thing in life is I'm not sitting still
Mm-hmm.
because the Lord can't take me through a door if I'm sitting still.
Yeah.
And so I just have made a promise that the door's closed and I can't open it, then I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But if He wants me to go through it, He'll unlock it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to try.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of brings me to my last question, and I would like Mom to answer this as well. I would like Mom and Dad to answer this. Through everything over the last, let's say, 20 years of just different jobs and careers for Dad, different roles for Mom, growing families in different ways, going through a lot of trial and error over several years. Kind of coming back to your home area of being in the South, and being a little bit closer to the family, what is the what is maybe the biggest lesson that you've learned over, let's say, the last 10 years, because we've been back in the South for close to 10 years. What are those big lessons that you've learned?
That's a big question. I guess maybe the first one is when we came back here, we were struggling, and God always provided. Like your dad said, we always had food and we always had a roof over our head. I guess that's the first one. God's a provider.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've learned in the last 10 years is, and it's taken me a long time to learn it. And I really have only recently learned this, is that fear doesn't have a place in a Christian's life.
Hmm.
I think sometimes when we're afraid, we get angry, we get overwhelmed. It comes out in a lot of different reactions that I wish I could like rewind 10 years and live my life differently.
Sure.
But you know, God's going to take care of you if you are praying and seeking, you will find.
Yeah.
I think you don't gain wisdom in life without experience,
Yeah.
both positive and negative.
Yeah.
Um, there's no growth without a little pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And I think it's necessary. I think we're supposed to grow as Christians. We're supposed to grow as individuals. But you don't grow if you're not moving and seeking the Lord in the process. And sometimes that looks different for everyone. But I know for us, the Lord's like I went in a new direction and the Lord's blessed it. It's not that it's right or
in several
wrong.
new directions.
It's not that it's right or wrong, but I committed to the Lord I was going to do it, and then I did it, and the Lord blessed it, and then when I was done, I knew it was over.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I look back over it, all I think of is that He's been very faithful, and I've had no choice but to learn.